Hey guys, Hypno here. I've had problems in the past where mobs, both hostile and passive, stop spawning for some unknown reason. Now I've seen others have had this problem too, including Etho and DocM77 among others. Some people have never seen this happen. Some have thought it was meant to counteract mob spawning towers. Others shrug it off and say it's a normal bug in Minecraft. Well, I think I might have found a reason why this is happening, and I don't believe it was actually intentional. Now guys, please note that this is purely speculation. I have been in software testing, and I'm a software programmer, but I have not decompiled or even looked at the source code for Minecraft. However, with that said, I do have a good understanding of how systems work, and I understand where potential bugs or problem areas can occur. Inside this tower, the passive mob spawning pads are 4x6 or 24 blocks, minus 1 block for a single piece of glowstone, so 23 blocks, and there are a total of 16 of them, giving us a grand total of 368 grassy block spawnable area. These are divided up evenly among the 4 chunk borders to help increase spawn rates. The hostile mob spawning pads are laid out exactly the same way, minus the glowstone, giving us a total of 384 blocks of spawnable area. The area I'm currently in is inspired by DocM77's perimeter area. Mobs, both passive and hostile, are able to spawn within 9 chunks, or 144 blocks of the player in every direction. The perimeter of this base is set up exactly this way. 144 blocks to the cobblestone wall in every direction. This makes the perimeter 288 by 288, which contains a surface area of 82,944 blocks. Now I've removed all the grass from within the perimeter area except for these 4 covered backup blocks here, which leaves only the grassy spawn pads above able to spawn passive mobs. Also, I've gone around and lit up a good portion of the caves nearby, but there are still a few around, as you can see from this image. The blue caves are unlit, the green, yellow, and red caves are lit. So my theory why mobs stop spawning is because they are spawning normally within loaded chunks and proceeding to wander into unloaded chunk areas. I believe Minecraft doesn't know how to handle this, and is keeping the entities loaded in memory and not despawning them. Now let me try and explain how I came to this theory and the reasoning behind it. It is known that mobs, both hostile and passive, cannot spawn in an area closer than 24 blocks to a player. There is a sweet spot between 24 and 32, give or take, blocks from the player that mobs cannot despawn in. Anything further than those areas, mobs can freely spawn if the spawning conditions are met, and they can also despawn. That understanding of the mob mechanics is important to know for this conjecture. When mobs have stopped spawning, I've hopped in this boat and taken a ride to the west wall of the perimeter. When it comes into view range, I've seen passive mobs. I've thought to myself, oh cool, they're spawning again. And then I proceeded to turn around back to my mob tower, which will then be producing passive mobs at its normal rate. Now this is what is interesting. When you first start Minecraft and load a world, if you press F3, you will see the numbers above mobs' heads. Now generally, upon first starting, the numbers above their heads will be anywhere between 0 and a couple hundred. As time goes on, more mobs have loaded, numbers increase, and they get bigger and bigger. You can freshly start Minecraft, load up any world, and see this happen time and time again. Okay, so this is the interesting part. If you stand under my mob tower and watch these hostile mobs die, you'll see their numbers increase. We've already covered this. However, if you hop in this boat and take a drive over to the west shore, using F3, you'll see the passive mobs all spawn along the border. Now take a look at the numbers above their head. Something isn't right here. If these just spawned, their numbers would be high like the hostile mobs we've just seen. These mobs have very low numbers, indicating they're already spawned there when the game started. What does this mean? Well, we've already covered that mobs that are greater than about 32 blocks from the player can despawn. Well, why haven't these mobs despawned? Good question. It's interesting that they're on the border of the loaded chunk area and still with the low numbers indicating that they've been there for a while. This is why I suspect that these mobs are potentially spawning on the very edge of the loaded world and then walking into an unloaded chunk. Minecraft doesn't know how to handle this and just keeps them in memory, limiting all potential other mobs spawning. I also believe this is the same thing that's happening with hostile mobs. They are either spawning on the surface during night and walking into an unloaded chunk, or spawning in an unlit cave and walking into an unloaded chunk. When you press F3, you can see in the upper left corner the E number, which stands for entities. The first part of the number is what's visible on your screen, even if it's obstructed by a wall. The second part is all the entities that are loaded in Minecraft in memory. This includes passive mobs, hostile mobs, boats, minecarts, items you drop, and maybe a few other items. Under normal circumstances, hostile mobs take up about 35 spots in the east section. Turning the game to peaceful should remove all hostile mobs from memory, and the E number should decrease by about 35. There are some exceptions, like slimes for instance. They are considered hostile mobs and they do not despawn when turned to peaceful. When I've experienced the mobs not spawning problem, changing the game to peaceful has had no effect on this number. I hope this helps bring light to why mobs stop spawning around mob towers. This, as I said at the beginning, is all speculation, but the evidence I've provided here sure seems to point to it being a correct assumption. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer every related question. Also guys, if you have any testing of this on your own and want to leave a video response, I'll try to accept all related and on-topic videos too. Thanks for watching.